tough road trip for the Astros between Chicago and Milwaukee as they dropped 4 out of 6 overall. There were a couple of good things to be had on this road trip with Jake Myers making history in Chicago, but for the most part, it was pretty much the same story as it's been all season. Offensive inconsistencies, failure to lock in at the plate. It's all coming up. We're going to talk all about it. Hey man, well I guess this is the second time I'm doing 2 series in a single video this season. You guys might remember I did one last month. But the reason there was no White Sox series was because I was raging over not just the fact that the Astros had lost to the White Sox in their shortened out victory, but also the fact that the Rockets had lost to the Warriors in the NBA playoffs for now the 5th time in the last decade. I mean, I guess this is kind of what the Astros have done to the Yankees during that span. So, I mean, I suppose this is what it feels like. But we're not talking about the Rockets in this video. We're instead going to talk about this Astros team that went 2-4 on a 6-game road trip up in the Midwest. So starting in this first game against the White Sox here in Chicago, Framber Valdez, he had a start that he would probably rather forget, and the Astros had a golden opportunity to respond to this because they had gotten 2 runners on courtesy of 2 errors by the White Sox defense, but they didn't capitalize on that at all, and squandering yet again another bases loaded opportunity with fewer than 2 outs. I don't know what the heck is our theme this year with squandering so many bases loaded opportunities. We squandered it last year as well. I mean, if you thought that was bad last year, it does not feel like it's any better this year, if I'm being 100% honest. I mean, it's been okay, I guess. I mean, at the very least, we have a grand slam, something we did not hit last year. I mean, at the same time, dude, I mean, you don't need to hit a grand slam. Just get a freaking base hit, or just find some way to score a run on that, or just get something through the infield if it's less than 2 outs. But, you know, but again, they just didn't do it. And the Astros, I mean, we did chip at the lead with an RBI double by Yanier Diaz. This would be one of 5 straight hits he would get both in this game and carrying over into the second game of this series. More on that in a bit. But unfortunately for the Astros, that was not quite enough as the White Sox responded with 2 more runs in the bottom of the 5th inning with a home run by Luis Robert Jr. Then in the 8th inning, Yanier Diaz would continue his hit streak, I guess, in the game, or, you know, his 5 AB hit streak, I guess you can say, with a solo home run that would get the Astros within 1, but that was as close as they would get all evening, as Taylor Scott, after replacing Bennett Sosa to finish off the rest of the inning, he would unfortunately give up 3 runs in the bottom half of the 8th inning, which allowed the White Sox to put the game away. Now, real quick, of course, before we dive into the second game of the series, I do want to mention I finally got my hands on a new City Connect 2.0 jersey, along with, of course, the matching hat. Now, of course, something you probably might notice is that this hat, of course, isn't what the players are wearing. I did now notice that, you know, the logo that the players wear on their hats is on the backside here. So, I mean, that is kind of cool. I personally decided to go for this one just because I think the logo looks a little bit cooler. But I'll be posting a more in-depth review video on this jersey at some point, you know, hopefully this weekend. So you guys have to stay tuned for that. But let's dive into the second game of the series, where Hunter Brown, similar story as Framber Valdez the night before, was tagged for more runs this time. This time, of course, in the first inning, he was tagged for 3 runs, and it looked like that this was going to be a repeat of yesterday's game, or, you know, of the previous game, I guess you can say. But Hunter Brown was able to lock in for the rest of the game. The White Sox did not score any more runs off of the Astros pitching staff for the rest of this game, and slowly but surely the Astros would chip away. The scoring started in the 3rd inning with a home run by Jake Myers, one of 2 home runs he'd hit in this game. That would then continue into the 5th inning with Jake Myers coming through once again with a 2-run triple, which would tie the score at 3 apiece. He would unfortunately finish just a single shy of the cycle, but he would end up having a productive and rather incredible day at that, with one of the biggest offensive games in club history. With just he had just 30 career home runs in just under 400 games prior to this game. But he would end up hitting a pair of home runs, a triple, and a double all over the course of this game, which makes him the first center fielder in Astros history to have that kind of a day at the plate, and also, I believe, the 4th or 5th player in MLB history, like overall, to have that kind of a day at the plate. Which, to me, if I'm being honest, the fact that just with this day, he is leading the team in OPS, which, I mean, is not really a good sign, but even then, I think it's like in the mid 750s or something like that. But at the same time, the fact that he has even a higher OPS than Jordan is a little bit concerning. And speaking of Jordan, I did forget to mention this at the start of the video. He unfortunately had to get placed on the injured list with an inflammation in his right hand. An MRI revealed that there was a little bit of swelling from that, I guess you can say, and he is going to need some time. To rest. But Espada is optimistic that the minimum time that he's going to be required to be on the injured list up through, I believe, next Tuesday is going to be all that he's going to need to fully recover. So hopefully he'll get better in that time, but time will tell. But back on track here, Jake Meyers would again continue his historic day by hitting his second home run of the game to put us up 6-3, a lead that we would not relinquish. Zach DeZenzo and then Jake Meyers once again would pad that lead with a pair of doubles to allow the Astros to win this game 8-3. But unfortunately, the Astros were not able to salvage or win the series finale in this series and take the series win, which was a series that coming in they really should have gotten. But it started, of course, with them getting a pair of runs in the second with a 2-run double by Mauricio Dubon, and then a 2-run blast by Zach DeZenzo 3 innings later. And then, unfortunately for the Astros, that 4-0 lead would not last, as the White Sox would end up tagging Lance McCullers Jr. Yes, that's right. This was Lance McCullers' first start in almost 3 years, to be honest. So, I mean, I was excited to see him back. I'm certain that he's going to be hungry for more, and and better yet, he's hopefully going to be pitching this weekend against the Cincinnati Reds. But in this game, I think he pitched okay. He was squeezed on a lot of his pitches. Like the strike zone in this game was a really tight strike zone. But overall, he didn't pitch too bad, and I mean, he made it out in one piece, which is a good thing. But like I said, the Astros had a 4-0 lead going into the bottom of the fifth inning, and well, unfortunately, they ended up squandering it, as the White Sox scored 3 runs in the bottom of the fifth inning to make it a 1-run game, and eventually plated the tying and go-ahead runs in the bottom of the sixth inning with a Luis Robert Jr. single, which tied it, and then in the bottom of the sixth inning, the White Sox would plate the tying and go-ahead runs an inning later, and that would be the final score after 7.5 innings when the game was called off due to a 60-plus minute rain delay. So the Astros let this victory wash away both figuratively and literally. Kind of pathetic, if you ask me. Like, this was a crummy White Sox team, and then of course we let them win only their second series all season. What a joke. And then, of course, on top of that, like I had mentioned at the beginning of this video, the Rockets had lost their Game 7 of their NBA playoff series and ending what was a remarkable season for them, which, I mean, as if this game was not any worse for us, that, of course, had to happen. Anyway, going to Milwaukee here, Ronel Blanco he pitched okay, but, I mean, he did kind of labor quite a bit. So... But I did not watch this game, seeing that I was working. But the Brewers had tagged him right off the rip for a 3 spot in the bottom of the third inning with a single by William Contreras to strike first, and then Christian Yelich hitting a 2-run blast to put the Brewers up 3-0. That was a lead that they would eventually not relinquish, but the Astros would finally break through in the sixth inning, and it took a misplay by the Brewers for them to get this run, with Christian Walker hitting an RBI single, which he would eventually reach on a fielder's choice, and scoring Altuve from third. It was a comebacker that it was hit straight back to the pitcher, but he threw it a little bit too high to second base, and that allowed Altuve to score. But that was as close as the Astros would get, as the Brewers would score two more times in the bottom of the eighth inning to end up winning this game 5-1. So, I mean, like I said, of course, the Astros had plenty of hits in this game, including a chance where they had loaded the bases, but just could not score. They had 9 hits over the course of this game, but only had 1 run out of that. So, if I'm being honest, dude, like I said, this has been a continuing trend for us all season long, where they end up getting so many hits but scoring very few runs. Brett Chansey on the Astros podcast that I listened to, the Locked On Astros podcast, you guys, I've mentioned them before, I'm sure you guys might have heard of it, but he had mentioned that in a recent episode that I was listening to during this series, that for every hit that you get, you should be getting 1 run out of that. And I mean, that's rather unrealistic, but like, for the most part, I think you probably could have, maybe your hit total could be maybe, say, 25% of what your runs are. But for the most part, dude, the fact that you're getting 1 run on 9 hits is a little bit concerning with your offense. I mean, it's better than getting 1 run on just 2 hits, like if the offense was just completely dead and just not getting any hits or getting on base at all. I mean, the fact that we're getting hits is fine, but scoring off of those hits is a completely different matter. And that's an issue that this offense has been dealing with pretty much all season. So game 2 of the series was more of the same, where Hayden Wesneski had to throw 40 pitches in the first inning and ended up giving up 4 runs. Part of that, of course, was the fact that Jake Myers, after he, as good of a defensive player as he is, had failed to make a catch, which resulted in the first 2 runs for the Brewers. And then Jake Bauers would end up adding on to that on another 2-strike, 2-out hit, which ended up being a home run to put the Brewers up 4-0. That 4-0 lead would stand, as the Astros would, despite them getting something done in the 7th with Brendan Rodgers hitting his first home run of the season as an Astro to get us within 1. It was a 3-1 blast, but, I mean, despite him hitting that, the Astros, despite getting the tying and go-ahead runs on base in the 8th inning, could not score, and they did not get any base runners on after that, so they would lose this game 4-3, which would dip them below 500, but they would not stay below 500 for long, as the offense would pretty much explode in this game behind a stellar start from Fran Valdez, who looked more like himself in this game, giving up 1 run over 7 innings, getting his first win since opening day. Overall, very good start. It started with the Astros It started, of course, with Zach DeZenzo getting a double and batting home Jake Myers from first base, who was attempting to steal on the pitch. Then in the 5th inning, the Astros had 2 men in scoring position with only 1 out, with Jeremy Pena at the plate. Zach DeZenzo was on third base as Pena hit a chopper up to third base, and with the infield drawn in it, the play was made at home plate. Initially, he was ruled out, but Zach DeZenzo, with a very athletic move, was able to sneak his hand in home plate before he was tagged. And after a successful challenge by Joe Espada, the call would be overturned and the run for the Astros would count, so they would go up 2-0. And ultimately, that would end up being one of 2 runs the Astros would score in this inning, as a pass ball by the Brewers pitcher would allow Brendan Rodgers to score from third base to put the Astros up 3-0. Eric Haas would end up chipping into that lead and putting the Brewers on the board with a home run to make it 3-1 Astros, but that was as close as the Brewers would get all game. Jeremy Pena would then add on to that shortly after that in the 6th inning with a 3-run blast to put us up 6-1. So that was a sight for sore eyes, and would ultimately be one of 2 home hits he'd get in this game, and 3 of 4 RBIs he would also get in this game. And then Isaac Paredes would add on to that with an RBI single, and Yonier Diaz would then chip in with a 2-run double to put us up 9-1, a lead that they would eventually not relinquish. And Josh Hader did come in this game, and I mean, it shocked me at first, but then of course after realizing that he has not even pitched in a game this month, I think it was probably worth it for him to at least get some action. His rustiness did show in this outing, considering he loaded the bases, but he did not allow any runs to score. So, I mean, obviously a bit concerning that Hader had loaded the bases in this game, but better for him to do that when we're already up 9-1 and the game virtually over, versus if it's, a 1-run game or something more like that. Overall, like I said, pretty tough road trip, but I'm sure the Astros will, hopefully with this win on the series finale, will be able to hopefully carry this into this weekend series against the Cincinnati Reds, who have historically been good against us. And I feel like I can't even remember the last time we've beaten the Cincinnati Reds, to be honest. But so hopefully we'll be able to get a win against them this weekend. So, like I said, time will tell. But that's going to do for this video, guys. If you liked it, drop a like, subscribe if you're new. If you want to watch anything else, click these cards here above my shoulders. Leave a like if you guys enjoyed, like I said, and I will see you guys in the next one.